Hello everybody, hope you're doing really well. Today we are doing the paranormal stories of Charing in Kent, Charing Village in Kent. So there's only two to mention, so stay with us and let's go check them out. Come on. Hello everybody, welcome back. So today we're doing the two paranormal stories of Charing Village in Kent. I have to keep sort of saying that because it's always a bit weird when you sort of say Charing, because I suppose probably the first instinct we'd always think is Charing in London. But we are in the beautiful Kent countryside, and I thought actually this would be quite a good spot to sort of show you how beautiful this countryside actually is. We just come through from Lenham, and then we are actually in Charing here, so I'm not sort of cheating by sort of saying we're in a field in the middle of nowhere in Kent. We are actually in Charing, and actually we're just up the road from our first ghost story, which or paranormal story I'll tell you about in a minute. But I thought I'd just sort of delineate really where we are. So Lenham is basically that way. If we were to go that way a little bit further on, we're going to Charing proper village. And then you'd end up, it depends where you want to go. You can go to Pluckley. Really, if my fun was going that way, hitchhiker style, we'd be going to Ashford. And obviously from Ashford, you can go really wherever you want. Obviously Kent coast really, we're sort of in this is a beautiful sort of spot for me. Normally I sort of say the border between East Sussex and Kent is probably my favourite sort of picturesque type of countryside. But actually, if you, on a beautiful summer's day, as of recording this, you really can't sort of beat that. In fact, actually, the train is wonderfully scaling across us in the background. I don't know if you could probably see that, but it is there. So today we're going to cover the two paranormal stories of Charing. So the first one I want to sort of talk about isn't the most well-known one, and actually, to be honest with you, it could be classed as quite a stereotypical story for most paranormal encounters. And we're talking about, literally, if I'm actually driving up to it now anyway, but we're talking about the Bowl Inn, which is a 16th century pub in Kent, in Charing, and it's basically one of these ones now which is a pub slash sort of hotel, so you can sort of stay the night, etc. And basically the story goes that, as is common with quite a lot of these sort of like old pubs, not just obviously in Kent but everywhere all over England, and I'm sure if you've been to a few pubs around the area, which I obviously have, especially in my old gigging days, it was kind of like a common thing to sort of do. You'd hear lots of locals talk about their old spectres and their old sort of like orbs and everything else, and actually the Bowl Inn is no exception really. Basically, it's been noted that there's been heard that children have been crying in the fireplace, and that there was legend that had it when the plague swept through the village that the bodies were actually thrown into the fire. And they're talking about the Inglenook fireplace, which is actually a fireplace situated in one of the actual rooms now of the Bowl Inn. So you can imagine actually, like, if you start hearing children's voices in something like that, it'd be a little bit, you know, spooked, I can imagine. And then obviously, but the fact that it's got rumour that it was to do with the plague, and obviously that's where the disposed of bodies were probably taken place. Obviously this is just folklore and local rumour, which is a wonderful thing to cover. And then also in the upstairs room, it's noted that obviously there was actually somebody apparently had stayed in that room, specifically where this fireplace was, or in one of the rooms up there, and they'd actually mentioned that they'd heard some ghostly noises and visitations. Maybe it's a bit too extreme in this case, but you get the idea. So basically an old-fashioned haunted pub, the Bowl Inn. And I'm sure actually, as of last reported, I'm sure there's probably a few more strange orbs and strange noises and sounds. Normally in pubs, the majority of the time you do get like strange sort of noises are probably the most common sort of thing, rather than actual ghosts or spectres. Normally children crying or children's noises, strangely enough, is actually quite a common one in most pubs really, if you were sort of to sort of like put a marker down. And the Bowl Inn is just one of those sort of, I would refer to it in a polite way of actually saying it's quite a stereotypical sort of like generic sort of story that has that. But what's really cool is that it has that legend that is associated with it, namely that attachment with the plague, apparently. So that's pretty cool, isn't it? I like that. I like that. And obviously it's in Charing where we are. So the second story I wanted to talk about is actually its most well-known one, and actually it's probably one of these ones that actually a lot of people within the local area would have probably known about. It's actually quite well known because it's actually been quite well documented in lots of ways. And I wanted to talk about basically the incident which is actually concerning Pett Lane. Now, Pett Lane is just by all accounts, just a sort of standard road, pretty much one that we've sort of driven up to today. And it concerned the fact that there was, on one night, whilst driving home with his mother, there was a gentleman in the car, and he was taking his mum home, etc., etc. And all of a sudden, basically, he spotted a man walking his dog along the lane. And obviously, because the lane's quite narrow, which is quite common around these sort of back lanes that we have here, he sort of started to slow down, which is obviously what you'd naturally do, because you don't want to obviously run over the bloke or the dog. And then all of a sudden, the man and his dog decided that they wanted to walk across, and basically the car went right through them. Yes, the car actually went through the man and his dog. So again, I'll reiterate that. Gentleman was going with his mum, taking a drive through Pett Lane, and as they were sort of doing it, they were just sort of driving through. They saw this guy with a dog. What anybody would sort of do, you normally see somebody on one of these sort of narrow lanes, decided to sort of slow down. And as he was sort of slowing down, the man and his dog turned, headed towards the side of the vehicle, and they walked straight through it. Wow. Pretty interesting story that, isn't it, really? Again, not uncommon in these types of things, but what I suppose makes this one really interesting is that actually it's been quite well documented on this. And obviously it's quite infamous for sort of Charing, I suppose, really, in Charing Village. But interestingly enough, as a recording this, there's not really many other tales from Charing, and I think we always have to sort of put under the assumption that not every single village is ever going to have every single ghost story. The fact that there's actually 2 that survive within Charing itself is quite interesting. But even more interesting than that, using the word interesting a lot, is that both the Bowl Inn and Pett Lane are just outside. Pett Lane links into Charing itself, but they're basically just sort of shy of actual Charing Village Central, which I find, you know, it's not actually the hub of Charing that we're looking at the ghosts. It's just on the sort of outskirts, really. So I love it. And they were the 2 paranormal stories of Charing Village. I really hope you enjoyed that, and thank you so much for coming along with me. In immortal words of Phoenix history, because history matters, this is obviously a paranormal folklore video. Hopefully we've sort of like prescribed to the idea of like the folklore and everything else, which I tried to do on this. And of course, stay safe. Much love to all of you out there. Feel free to spread the word of the channel, and I genuinely mean it. It really goes a long way for me. Basically, what it means is that it encourages me to go out and explore and keep doing this. Although I love it for myself, it's always nice to see when the channel gets more subscribers and people liking the videos and stuff. It just encourages me to do more. And I don't make any money from this. So this is literally a labour of love and a hobby. So anyway, take care everybody. Much love to all of you out there. Ready? Kapow.